Hi guys! Today we'll be making these miniature samurai swords. These were inspired by the character of Katana from the Suicide Squad movie. Since they are inspired by Katana, I apologize for any cultural inaccuracy, since I was working with reference pictures from the movie and it was pretty hard to make out the details. But if you want to make more accurate samurai swords, there are plenty of good pictures online. The first thing I did was to sketch out my swords to get the shape and the size right. I made mine to fit a Barbie. For the blades of the swords, I'll be working in the thin sheet of aluminum, but you can use whatever thin metal you have, for instance from a can. Place your sword stencil onto the metal and sketch around it using a permanent marker. Draw the handle part thinner than you want it to end up, since we'll be using clay later. Next we're gonna cut out the blade. Since the metal is so thin, you can use a sturdy pair of scissors. However, don't use a pair you're really fond of, because this will dull the blades. Cut it out carefully and be very careful not to cut or poke yourself with the metal parts. And that's the base of our sword. To add detail, you're gonna need some files. This is just a set of very cheap diamond files. Start by going around the edge to correct the shape, since it is hard to cut it out precisely. Also make sure there are no really sharp points, because even though we're making the sword, you don't want to hurt yourself. To make the sword look like it's actually sharp, we're going to file the edges at an angle. This adds a nice reflection and gives some good dimension. And that's the finished blade. Next I cut a small circle out of the metal, rounded off the edges, and then cut a slit down the middle. This way you can put it around the handle part to separate the handle and the blade. For the handle, I took some black polymer clay and rolled it out evenly. Then I got my stencil out again and cut two pieces in the shape I wanted the handle, and then I stuck the two around the metal part. When the clay is stuck on firmly, then bake it completely according to package instructions. After cooling, use a file to round off the edges and correct the shape of the handle. Next I took some leather looking fabric and cut a long strip. Then I started gluing this around the handle, giving it a twist in the middle of every round. Once you're done, it should look something like this. Then I use some gold and silver alcohol ink to paint on some details. And that's the sword done. Now for the holster. Take some recycled cardstock and then cut out the shape of the blade. Take the same fabric as before and sketch on two pieces like so, that's a tad bigger than the blade. Then put them together right side to right side and sew them. You can also choose to make the entire holster from polymer clay, but I chose fabric since I was afraid that such a long cylinder of clay might snap. Once you've sewed it all together, cut away any excess and then turn it inside out. Then you want to take the cardstock cutout we did before and place it inside. This will help steady the holster. Finally, tie a piece of ribbon around the holster so it could be attached to a belt. And that's the big sword done. From what I understand, this is called a katana sword because it has a curved blade, but you can make a straight one if you want. For the smaller sword, I used a round file to also make some ridges down the blade because it appeared to have that in the pictures. It also looked to have an indented line down the top, so I added this with the dotting tool. Make the handle from clay the same way we did before. Cut a piece of the same fabric as before and glue it around the top. Then add the details with alcohol ink. There appeared to be some sort of symbol or writing on the handle, but it was hard to make out when she was holding the sword, so I made a very simple symbol instead. I then used a shiny glaze to seal in the handle and then made a holster the same way as we did for the big sword. And then our samurai swords are done. You can make these as any size or style that you want, but as many of you probably have guessed, I'll be using mine for a Katana character repaint soon. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video and I'll see you guys in a new one real soon. Bye!